welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are lost in a labyrinth of our own making, and we need to start drawing out a path to find our way out, but we just don't have enough practice with our hands.
So we are going to issue a challenge. Each week we sit down. Our goal is to write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we learned in reading it, and then we talk about stories sent in by you wonderful listeners.
Exactamundo, we're simply here to help you do the right thing.
Doof Media Production.
It's almost Thanksgiving. Yes, the best holiday ever.
Canceled this year, which is good. I hope that people... you know what?
Wait, what do you mean it's canceled this year?
The turkey's got the bird flu. Anyway, you know what? I'm surprised to not see a lot more marketing nowadays.
What?
Like, I saw a lot of it, like, a good, 6 or more months ago, or, last year. It was that Google, FaceTime device. I don't know what to call it, but it's the whole idea is you give it to your grandparents because they're too stupid to use technology. That's what the marketing says, even though I don't know how accurate that is. And then you it's just a big screen so you could talk to them, and they're like, oh, it's like you're together, and you can cook together like a family. You know that thing?
That was by Google?
If I remember correctly, maybe not.
Yeah, because I also remember seeing so many of those commercials, and I kept laughing, being like, well, it's a good thing that they made old people seem as dumb as fucking possible.
Yeah.
But I remember it one being for a higher end company, but then the other one was on par with one of those pay per minute phones.
What?
That you get from fucking Walmart. I think there's multiple items like that out there, but I don't know. I don't think any good commercials have really came out in quite some time, probably because you can't really be on site when there's possibility of getting COVID. So
yeah, I don't know. I would have been I was expecting them to get a lot more attention nowadays than they did before. But
because it seems like
the
part
time
of the COVID gear pack
for that. Yeah, exactly. So what is the COVID-19 starter pack? It's probably just a lot of
3
phrases with everything that's going on nowadays, just that plastered over a t-shirt maybe.
That it comes with a really big bottle of water. It comes with a shitty Android phone and 3G, not 4.
Okay. Sure. Why not? Okay, let's get into the stuff for this week. This week we bring to you a short story by Jorge Luis Borges, which is he's a South American
fantastic author.
Yeah, he's a magical realism author. He's kind of one of the people that spearheaded that sort of idea. I don't think this specifically qualifies as magical realism, or maybe it does. I don't know. I don't think that's the point of the story. But this story is called The House of Asterion. I remember we read it in one of my creative writing courses. I don't remember why we read it, but it was. It's good.
I'm guessing it was just one of those filler projects, right?
I don't know about that. They're pretty intentionally chosen. Then again, creative writing courses at my university were filler courses, so it's just kind of everything.
And they still are.
They kind of still are. Okay, you know what? No, I take it back. The courses are great. The major shouldn't exist. We shouldn't have that as a major. At least
I don't know. I want to make sure that my $100,000 of debt was put in the right place.
I let's give you your degree, and then you can leave, and then they can just cancel the program entirely.
Please. Or at least fucking redo it. Make it matter.
Yeah, it could be done. But that's a story for another time. I don't think I have anything else to say going into it. The thing that we're going to be...
First, we have to announce what this week's words were. Which were skate, pluck, abundant, and cathedral. So really strong words this week. And I saw that a lot of people used cathedral, which definitely informed a lot of the stories for this week, and I'm really excited to get into that.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, which are very much like Gothic cathedral imagery focused.
Nothing but cathedrals.
Yeah, so I know you were probably enjoying them for that aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the story coming up, the House of Asterion, we're going to be talking about reveals. That's the challenge for this week. So pay attention to that as you listen to the story. Like mystery reveals, like the revealing of a... Yeah.
Yeah. Get into it.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's pretty short. The story is The House of Asterion by Jorge Luis Borges. From his story collection Labyrinths from 1962. And the queen gave birth to a child who was called Asterion. Apollodorus, Bibliotheca M1. Which, that might be a Roman numeral, but anyway. I know they accuse me of arrogance, and perhaps of misanthropy, and perhaps of madness. Such accusations, for which I shall extract punishment in due time, are derisory. For it is true I never leave my house, but it is also true that its doors, whose number is infinite. Footnote. The original says 14, but there is ample reason to infer that, as used by Asterion, this numeral stands for infinite. Are open day and night to men and to animals as well. Anyone may enter. He will find there no female pomp nor gallant court formality, but he will find quiet and solitude. And he will also find a house like no other on the face of the earth. There are those who declare there is a similar one in Egypt, but they lie. Even my detractors admit there is not one single piece of furniture in the house. Another ridiculous falsehood has it that I, Asterion, am a prisoner. Shall I repeat that there are no locked doors? Shall I add that there are no locks? Besides, one afternoon I did step into the street. If I returned before night, I did so because of the fear that the faces of the common people inspired in me, faces as discolored and flat as the palm of one's hand. The sun had already set, but the helpless crying of a child and the rude supplications of the faithful told me I had been recognized. The people prayed, fled, prostrated themselves. Some climbed onto the stylobate of the temple of Axes. Others gathered stones. One of them, I believe, hid himself beneath the sea. Not for nothing was my mother a queen. I cannot be confused with a populace, though my modesty might so desire. The fact is that I am unique. I am not interested in what one man may transmit to other men. Like the philosopher, I think that nothing is communicable by the art of writing. Bothersome and trivial details have no place in my spirit, which is prepared for all that is vast and grand. I have never retained the difference between one letter and another. A certain generous impatience has not permitted that I learn to read. Sometimes I deplore this, for the nights and days are long. Of course, I am not without distractions. Like the ram about to charge, I run through the stone galleries until I fall dizzy to the floor. I crouch in the shadow of a pool or around a corner and pretend I am being followed. There are roofs from which I let myself fall until I am bloody. At any time I can pretend to be asleep, with my eyes closed and my breathing heavy. Sometimes I really sleep. Sometimes the color of day has changed when I open my eyes. But of all the games, I prefer the one about the other Asterion. I pretend that he comes to visit me, and that I show him my house. With great obedience I say to him, "Now we shall return to the first intersection," or "Now we shall come out into another courtyard," or "I knew you would like the drain," or "Now you will see a pool that was filled with sand," or "You will soon see how the cellar branches out." Sometimes I make a mistake, and the two of us laugh heartily. Not only have I imagined these games, I have also meditated on the house. All the parts of the house are repeated many times. Any place is another place. There is no one pool, courtyard, drinking trough, manger, the mangers, drinking troughs, courtyards, pools are 14, infinite in number. The house is the same size as the world, or rather, it is the world. However, by dint of exhausting the courtyards with pools and dusty grey stone galleries, I have reached the street and seen the temple of the Axes and the sea. I did not understand this until a night vision revealed to me that the seas and temples are also 14, infinite, in number. Everything is repeated many times, 14 times, but two things in the world seem to be only once. Above, the intricate sun. Below, Asterion. Perhaps I have created the stars and the sun and this enormous house, but I no longer remember. Every 9 years, 9 men enter the house so that I may deliver them all from evil. I hear their steps or their voices in the depths of the stone galleries, and I run joyfully to find them. The ceremony lasts a few minutes. They fall one after another, without my having to bloody my hands. They remain where they fell, and their bodies help distinguish one gallery from another. I do not know who they are, but I know that one of them prophesied, at the moment of his death, that some day my Redeemer would come. Since then, my loneliness does not pain me, because I know my Redeemer lives, and he will finally rise above the dust. If my ear could capture all the sounds of the world, I should hear his steps. I hope he will take me to a place with fewer galleries and fewer doors. What will my Redeemer be like? I ask myself. Will he be a bull? Or a man? Will he perhaps be a bull with the face of a man? Or will he be like me? The morning sun reverberated from the bronze sword. There was no longer even a vestige of blood. "Would you believe it, Ariadne?" said Theseus. "The Minotaur scarcely defended himself."
Wow, so I really dig this story. I mean, the voice in it is so strong, and it's a mixture of like aimless and light and very, very colorful. To the point to where up until the ending, honestly, I had no clue what this reveal would really be. But as soon as we did get there, and the pieces about the 9 years, the 9 men coming in and dying instantly, and of course the very last line says it all. But yeah, overall, I mean, this reveal very, very clearly colors the entire story to where reading it back for a second time does really change how I am reading it.
Yeah, so there's a lot in here. It's not just about the reveal. There's a lot more to analyze in here, of course, by any great writer. But focusing on that, there's a lot of clues in here. Like at the very beginning, in the first paragraph, we actually are told about what happened when he went outside, right? He saw all these people, and they had faces flat, right? Like the palm of his hand. And you just don't get what that means at all. Like you could take it literally, and you can kind of imagine like actually flat faces, but for the most part you just kind of tuck that away and be like, that's interesting, I hope I figure out what that means later. But then you sort of realize at the end, right, if he has a head of a bull, of course he kind of thinks that normal faces are flat. Super flat. Like that's gotta look really weird. And the story sort of meanders away from like trying to get you to figure out the mystery. You're not really supposed to. After that initial clue, that's mostly just like a setup for the reveal. And the rest of the story just talks about this infinite house. There's 14 of most things, but it's infinite because it just repeats, and they're all exactly the same. So they might as well be infinite. And that's the labyrinth, which is another interesting connection. Yeah.
And I also really like how in the middle of this story, it definitely does dwell on a lot of the motifs of like isolation and loneliness. How this Minotaur is imagining different scenarios that I guess kind of quell this sort of aimless loneliness that he does live in, to day by day. And I find that very interesting within this telling of this story when it comes to the POV that was being used. I mean, in every other story about the Minotaur in the labyrinth, he's this giant monster that's a brute that is just aimless and is and is something that is pure evil, that is being meant to be slashed and defeated. But within this telling, it almost really humanizes that figure. It makes us sympathize with this aimless beast that doesn't really have any purpose, which I really did love, and it's an angle that I never really thought I would see on this very classic story.
Yeah, it makes him into this pitiable figure that's
Piteous
just been
fool.
abandoned in this labyrinth without anything to entertain them at all. And I think like the sort of nonchalant way at the end that Theseus is just like, it barely defended itself. It just let me kill it. And he's just like happy about it. I don't know if he's happy about it, but that's sort of what that implies to me.
Yeah. Well, what seems like definitely more shock than anything.
Yeah.
That this great beast would go down without a fight.
Which turns it into sort of a more tragic thing. That it got slaughtered basically.
Yeah. Honestly, it kind of felt like more like a mercy killing, right?
A little bit. I wonder, obviously the best solution is the one unseen by the story, which is just to let him go and to sort of accept him in a different way. To go back to the reveal of it. So there's sort of so in my mind there's three parts to this. One is that initial setup, right? And you can also count in some like other little minor clues. But the first thing is just something that like is you just don't understand, and you acknowledge as you're reading it. You're like, that is interesting. I don't know what that means. I hope to find out. So that's the introduction of this sort of mystery. And you get some minor clues, but they're very, very minor, right? You would have to have some wild guesses. If you know that Asterion is the name of the Minotaur, then you've already got it, right?
Yeah.
But that's the mystery is not really for that, for the person that knows that. But then right at the end, you have some major clues dropped, right? Talking about how will he be a bull or a man, or a bull with a face, or like me, which really makes you, following that train of thought, you're like, oh, head of a bull, body of a man, right? And then immediately after you get that final reveal of like Theseus talking about the Minotaur and Ariadne, which is also not just like straight up telling you. There's still like a second of like, oh, Theseus is talking about when he talks about the Minotaur, that's who we were talking to. It really lets you, just before you read that or when you're reading that, you be like, oh, I get it now. You get that realization just before, right?
Yeah.
So you feel like you figured out the whole thing, even though it was basically spoon-fed to you.
Yeah. And I think what really does make this reveal so impactful is, as you said, those breadcrumbs that we got leading up to it, and how none of them was sort of overstated. None of them took center stage, but they were subconsciously leading you towards this natural reveal. And it doesn't really feel like the story itself was keeping this secret from you. It was just waiting to tell you. It was waiting for you to get it, which I really like. That this story isn't, as you said, spoon feeding you everything. It is treating you as a intelligent reader in your ability to figure things out. And I think that's what a key component is when it comes to any story that has some sort of reveal. It is leaving those breadcrumbs. It is treating your reader smarter than you might think, and basically letting them get it without having to tell them.
Some of the things that I think are notable about this, more what's going around the setup of this little reveal. One is that you don't need to know what the reveal is to understand what's going on in the story, right? Like, there's some stories that people write, and my creative writing teacher would warn us against doing this, of like, you write a story and then at the end you find out that the whole time it was a dog talking, right?
It was a dream the whole time,
or it was a dream, and it's like, that makes it a lot harder to understand what happened. Like if you need that reveal to understand what was going on in the story, like, if you're talking about a story, if you're writing a story and then you are led to believe that this is a human being, and at some point it talks about them, walking on all fours, and you're like, wait, what? I didn't, what? I don't understand, and this is just like annoying, and now I have to go back and like recontextualize everything to make it like make sense in the first place. So don't make the story rely upon that reveal. The reveal like makes you like understand the deeper meanings and the the greater picture maybe, but like at every moment in this story you understood what he was talking about. He's talking about this endless rooms and how he feels about that, and that he's clearly like deformed or something, and that's the important stuff that you need to know. Yeah.
It almost feels like this story is telling two different stories, in a sense. It is telling what this endless maze really looks like, how it does make one who is stuck there feel, while at the same time telling the narrator's story. And it's done really well, and it's woven together perfectly. Hence why we are really talking about it so much, and hence why the reveal really hits so hard. I would challenge people that are listening to this podcast and that did listen to your reading of it to go back and read the story for a second time, because at least for me it did change how I read it, and I was able to pick up on those breadcrumbs more so, and I think this story definitely needs a second read to fully, I guess, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some other stuff about it that I think are extremely subtle that also help you just get more of a feeling for it. Like just the fact that the Minotaur is both like, he kind of thinks very highly of himself, right? That he's a very special person, but also is, a little bit simpler, and you can kind of tell that he's kind of like putting on a show of being this royal sort of thing. Because he's just playing pretend, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of picture, like, he's kind of doing the pretending with Asterion with this story, too, sort of. Mm-hmm. Where he's like, oh, now I will tell you the story of my life. And except it's like, who is he talking to? No one, really.
And it's funny because, like, as you said, it feels like he's putting on a show, but at the same time, all of it feels kind of childish, right? It feels like, as you said, he's very simple, but if it reminds me of a lot of the adventures I would have with my little cousin, where every single last thing is grand, every single last thing is important, but at the same time, it all feels like the exact same thing. So I don't know. I just really love how this Minotaur is being characterized here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's what we have on this story. If you have any other analysis of the House of Asterion or anything else you want to talk about it, to say about it, go ahead and let us know.
Definitely. But it's time to move on to our listener-submitted story sections. As you know, we are going to spoil all of these stories, so wait for us to announce them, then pause, go read them, and then come back so you can hear us talk about them.
That's right. So who are we reading this week, Jarvis?
I'm so happy you asked. The stories we are going to be reading this week are by Haunt of the Heron, Matt Said Words, No Goodbye, Bloodthirsty Panda, and Sarah Penguin.
That's right. So thanks y'all for writing, and go read those stories before you listen to us talk about them.
Exactly. So up first is by Hans of the Heron with Cut Your Losses.
Which I think also is like the first line of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this story is really interesting. We have a character chained and going to the Cathedral of the Shrike. So for those who don't know, shrikes are this kind of bird that they capture prey and then they impale them on the thorns of of plants. So usually like places where there's like cactuses or other kinds of things, but they'll grab a grasshopper and impale it on the spike of the cactus so that they can eat it later is how I understand it. Which is a pretty brutal way to do your hunting.
Double kill.
Yeah. So, in this one, so they're chained and they're approaching the Cathedral of the Shrike with a Shrike Angel who is standing one-legged atop the spire of the cathedral. And it has 3 heads: a wolf, a man, an executioner, a wolf, a man, a shrike, which is the inquisitor, judge, and executioner. Mm-hmm. With the shrike head is the one that's looking at our main character. And all around there are people, other prisoners, impaled upon spikes, undying, just tortured, some still screaming, some have given up and they can't even do anything except just hold themselves in place now, which is pretty horrible. So our the challenge for this week was spectacle, and I think there's a really big spectacle of all this horrible these people impaled on the spikes, and in the background there's this red palace that has been burned to the ground, and we can see that there's fire spreading elsewhere. We basically get that this main character was the chancellor and basically instated a coup to overthrow the king, and now there's a civil war and they were captured and they're being brought to face the commander of the Lord Commander, who is trying to be crowned queen, as I understand it. Mm-hmm. And so they have a conversation, and the Lord Commander basically says, hey, join me. We will fight the civil war, and I will be queen by the end. And you will help me. And it was your fault for trusting me. And she's like lying a little bit because she is just as like complicit as our main character. Mm-hmm. But goes on anyway. But so our main character has to decide, and at one moment they decide that they're going to sacrifice themselves for the good of the kingdom, because that's why they did this coup in the first place. And they confess to the Shrike that they want to confess their sins. And the implication that by confessing their sins, they're also going to implicate the Lord Commander, and she's going to get hunted down by this Shrike Angel. Although there's going to be our main character is going to be impaled upon a spike for a very long time. I have no idea how long, but a very, very long time.
Up until he dies.
Yeah, and maybe the Lord Commander is going to join them, because the wolf will... The wolf head will basically hunt them down eventually. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty bloody story, but I really, really love the imagery. I like this idea of a Shrike Angel a lot. And I think it's super, super cool. Yeah, I think it nails the spectacle thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this story is ripe with place. I mean, I just really wanted to like just be lost in this sort of like bloody post-war warscape forever, because it was so evocative of like the place of it, the sights, the smells. And yeah, I think this story did a fantastic job at making a scene that is filled with this sort of chaos while also staying very focused on the purpose of like writing this. I mean, never was there a point where I thought we were meandering. It just kept pushing forward, and I really did like that, because I know when you are kind of creating this sort of scape, this sort of spectacle, it is hard to to figure out what is the purpose, why are we going forward. But yeah, this story did a great job of not only giving me great imagery, but also giving me a very solid story that I definitely wanted to know more about. So great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this idea of the Shrike Angel. One very minor thing is maybe telling us that the Shrike is a bird, right? Because some people don't know what a Shrike is, and just like, mentioning feathers or something of the sort, I think would be enough of just like making us fully, like, when it says a Shrike's head, I knew that a Shrike is a bird, but also I don't know what the Shrike, like, the bird looks like. And even less so if I didn't know what a Shrike was, right? Like, yeah, just the very bare minimum of, like, what color feathers, that kind of thing, or a beak, or something to signal to us, oh, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. But fantastic job, Haunt of the Heron. And next up is by Matt Said Words with Heat Emanates and Life Fleets.
So thanks for joining us, Matt, who said that they joined us because of the Kingslingers podcast. We really appreciate that. And we hope that you write for the challenge. By the way, there's a challenge, but you should probably say that a little bit more often. A contest that we're doing right now. So yeah, thanks for joining us. So here there is a fire pursuing our main character, this man. As people all around are running, and our main character is a little confused and dazed. And he is trying to run, that there's the fire's right behind him. There's this dog also running. But then there's some sort of like explosion or some other, conflagration, and they fall down. And we can really feel like how difficult it is to move and make sense of this scene through the prose without actually just being told. We could just feel it. But he gets to this cathedral, is able to sort of break in and close it behind him, and then he blocks a door behind him, and people start asking and begging to get in, but he doesn't open it. And the only other person there is his father, or maybe like the father of the church. That makes more sense.
Yeah,
but they also says father and son.
I think it's the father of the church.
Yeah. But they clearly do have actually like a clear connection. Otherwise, so the father is just praying, and says that they should open the doors, but it doesn't actually go to open them himself. And the man says, no, I'm not going to do that. That we should go to the basement. And the people outside they stop begging to get let in, and then they just scream. And then there's smoke at the door, so we get that the fire got to them too. Finally, he goes down to the basement, where there's a ton of supplies there, canned food and water and plenty of things. But almost immediately, there's an explosion of fire that boils everything and burns everything. And the place collapses around him. And as he wakes up, he is burned all over. It's kind of seems to me like a final punishment. And he's gonna like die in pain, pinned in place by these rocks. Hearing the voice of his father saying, "We should open the doors."
So yeah, I really dug this story. I mean, right out the gate, it just hit the ground running, and I love the chaos within the beginning, and it's really doing a really great job of setting the stage and creating this tension, and basically letting us know the fear that this main character is in, and then as it goes, it just continues to get sadder and sadder as a sense of hopelessness kind of buds up, and I really do like it. I mean, it has a solid tone throughout, and I think the tension just continues to build and build and build, and at the very end, one major question that was really left with me is what is outside, because never is it really alluded to. So honestly, I think this story is really effective. I mean, it grabs us in the beginning, and we're just running with it through this very chaotic world of fire, and I really, really loved it. So great job.
I think the chaos is very well executed. I think just like slightly more detail after that initial confusion could be put in just a little bit of like what like is the cause of the fire, that kind of thing, but it's also not entirely necessary. And one other thing of like why the father himself is not opening the door, and that was just like a minor little plot thing that I was trying to get. But I understand this was written in 30 minutes, and just sometimes you just want something to happen and you don't necessarily have all the backing of like why and everything.
But I mean, this story I think really does lend itself to be longer. So I mean, if you do choose to go back and work on this story, I think it would be a pretty solid task, because this story is a really great template for something that could be greater and that can ask a lot of questions. So yeah, I really did love it, but really great job.
Let's get to the next story.
Sure. And up next is by No Goodbye with First Titan.
So that first line, the title can kind of give you a hint as to what's to come. So we get what we a nice little tiny twist here. We get what we think is the first Titan right at the beginning. Grand finale, this event where this sort of gigantic angel with 1,000 arms and 100 wings, the sky splits and it comes down, and it starts just after 3 days, just starts to scour the world, one place at a time. First, this one town, where these cracks form from the sky, and thunder spews out and sort of just like disintegrates, and it evaporates anything they touch. And then the people that had come to fight it from the capital, the army, they immediately like turn tail and run because there's nothing they can do to fight this giant monster. And this finale starts walking and just destroying everything. It makes a bunch of screaming noises that just drive you to madness even before it gets close, and there's kind of no escape or way to fight it. And then there's this is kind of a sort of historical writing, and we have this one like journal writing about how they don't know, what the cause of this thing is. It the rapture? Is it something else? No, it just seems like completely hopeless. It seems to be just like a negative bad thing, just the end of the world basically. And then finally, eventually, on the 13th day, a man of clockwork and pistons erupts from a hill and goes to fight the monster. It too is giant with its head above the clouds, and it fights with the finale. But it's much stronger than finale. It even though it doesn't have 100 arms, those 100 arms of the finale break like ceramic, not like the metal. And so during the fight, it's like damaged but still standing, and destroys it. And it still stands today, and it's called the First Titan. So here we get, so that other thing wasn't the Titan. The Titans are the good things only. And more monsters have come from the skies, some even worse than finale, the first one. But each time, other Titans appear and to defend. So this is the Age of Titans, and now it's the fastest that people have, or that humans have grown since the discovery of fire, as we're trying to understand its technology and things like that by studying the Titans. And we don't know what created them, but they were created, and so that sort of provides hope that we can understand where they came from. And even though these giant monsters came from places that we don't understand.
Yeah, so I really did dig this one. Throughout, there was this really strong sense of hopelessness that followed throughout. And I mean, this story did do a really great job at setting up a spectacle. I mean, I was enamored by these giant beings basically fighting, and it reminded me of like a Pacific Rim type, with kaiju's being punched in the face by giant mechs. But you know, this did have a very strong dire tone, and it had like a very slight Lovecraftian motif. So I mean, overall, I just really liked it, and I liked a lot of the voice that was being used here, and the imagery perfectly painted this grandiose picture to me. So great job.
Yeah, I found it was a really good spectacle. And I always love giant monsters fighting.
Yes.
And like as you said, yeah, the hopelessness of this first monster appearing, it really feels apparent, and you kind of get the feeling, oh, this is the whole story. There is no hope.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turns out there is, and it's a satisfying reveal. It bursting out of the hill it quickly faces off against a monster. It satisfyingly does so. So I think that was it was really well done, and I love giant monsters. I hope more people write about giant monsters and giant robots fighting them.
Yes, honestly, we just need a good sequel to Pacific Rim.
Yeah, if only someone would do a sequel to Pacific Rim, that would be really cool.
I mean, we did get one, but that was god awful. But we need.
No, we didn't.
You're right. Sorry, we didn't. So I
Thank you.
think if they got someone good on, I mean, it's easy. Have the robot have weight and punch the thing in the face. That's all I want. Nothing more. I guess I have to do it myself. But
they should do Pacific Rim, but set in fantasy. I think that would be cool.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I want to see? I want to see
like
a giant
golems?
wizard. No, a giant wizard.
A giant wizard with the robe,
80-foot tall wizard.
And, you know, he has to be really fucking old to where he's like hunched over. But he can cast giant fireballs.
Yes, but it is also a robot. It's a giant robot wizard.
Giant robot wizard. That sounds like a fucking
that's the
band
name. Yeah, that's the name of the movie. It's going to be called Giant Robot Wizard.
GRW. Groof. Well, all right. Up next is by Bloodthirsty Panda with The Rain Gives Way.
I think that's also just the first line, but we're going to call it that anyway.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, that title does fit the overall story.
Yes. So it is it's raining as this traveler has been traveling, and we really understand of like how far and how arduous their journey has been. Their clothing is tattered. Their shoes are worn down. He hasn't eaten good food in a long time. He hasn't stayed in a proper inn for a long time. Usually just camping outside. Traveling hundreds of miles over countless days, all because he wants to reach this cathedral that he just really wants to see. This is the object of his desire, and it's been talked up and up as he's gone. Whitewashed walls gleaming in the sun. Spires of gold, taller than any ancient tree, reaching for the sky, piercing the clouds on cold, foggy days. Windows dressed in every color. And he's just, he can't wait to... He just really wants to get to this place so he can go and obtain the goddess's blessing. And finally, he gets there. Except it's not what he expected. It's actually a ruined cathedral. There's no whitewashed walls, there's no golden spires, there's no rainbow paneled windows, and instead there is basically a skeleton of wood and crumbling stone. And he's so disappointed that he turns to leave basically immediately, but then he sees some pink there, some color. And he travels to go down there. He opens the doors, which open easily, to find beautiful flowers along the ground. So some sort of redemption there. And it's beautiful, more beautiful than any flowers he's ever seen. And finally he picks one before he leaves. And I thought that was a really great fulfillment of this promise of this wonderful place. It's sort of like what you may get at the end of your journey is not what you expected, but it's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah, definitely. This story reminded me a lot of the road. This sort of pilgrimage through the Badlands that are riddled with darkness and despair. And I think this story did a great job of bringing over that tone. And just basically outlining this journey, which, as you said, has a ending that is unexpected but does make perfect sense. I really did like this sort of takeaway at the end, to where what you want from your journey, you may not get, but the point of the journey is the destination, and you will get some sort of reward for the journey itself. So I mean, overall, this story does a fantastic job at holding you throughout, at taking you through this sort of world, and I really did like it. So great job.
Did you just say though that the point of the journey is the destination?
I mean, that's one of the points of the journey. Yeah.
I feel like the only saying about journeys is that the journey is the point, not the destination.
That is true, but if we're gonna be honest,
oh my gosh,
the point of the journey is where you're gonna be, like why you're going. Yes, you are gonna take great things away from this journey. I mean, the best part of a road trip is the drive there, right? Mm-hmm. But you won't think about that in the moment. In the moment, the purpose is where you are going. Hindsight has turned the journey into the most important part. But while you were in there, getting there is the point.
Well, yeah, but that's the point of the saying, so that you don't. Because the natural thing is to think about the destination rather than the journey, but the journey is the important part of learning things and improving yourself.
Yeah. So it is both, how I see. Both parts are important, but getting there is where your mind's going to be the entire time. At least that's what I
feel like that's the opposite of what that means, but it's okay. That said, if Bloodthirsty Panda wanted to change the meaning of to reflect the journey before the destination, kind of, it's a normal theme, but it's an important one. This arduous journey, I feel like it feels like they could have learned something. It cost them something great, mm-hmm. A lot of effort and time, but they probably got stronger because of it and things like that. And I don't know, maybe there's sort of an implication of getting to this place is how you earn the goddess's blessing. Maybe.
True.
And maybe there's plenty of ways that could be executed. Maybe something about how the goddess's blessing lets you appreciate, beautiful things. It lets you see beautiful things everywhere, or something like that. And so he sees this beautiful flower, and that's kind of the implication of it, working or anything else. I like the implication that he does get the goddess's blessing in the end. I just don't know what that really means for his case. But I think it's a beautiful story. I really like that imagery. I mean, I love the aesthetic of a ruined cathedral with flowers growing in it. That's beautiful.
Yes.
So, I really like that.
Very Dark Souls-y.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, our final story for this week is by Sarah Penguin with Weight of the World. Strong time.
So this is a pretty dark story to finish on. Our main character, she's walking through a broken city, stones and broken glass. While there's a winter chill, there's it's super dark, even though the sun is high in the sky, and it's cold. And her hands are full. She's carrying something, although we don't really know what. And as she walks, we see various horrible images. A row of people on the floor, hands bound in sacks over their head, dead. Every 3 feet along the wall, a stain of red, sort of implying that there's been these executions. There's an abundance of flies and maggots. She hasn't eaten in days, in many, many days, actually. And the thing that she's carrying is heavier than it was, lighter than it should be, and heavier. I think the phrase here, actually, let me just read it out. This made the weight that she carried heavier than it was. It was also lighter than it should be, the heaviest thing she would ever carry, which is it's confusing in a really great way. That gives you all of the emotional significance without actually telling you what it is. So we have some reveal here too. And there's more imagery. We see this 5-headed snake drawn a couple times. Our main character starts to sort of think in rhyme a little bit. Easier to catch a bird as it plucks an eye than it is to pluck one from the sky. And there's some other things like that. It seems like there was some calamitous event recently that everyone has like fled. A lot of people have like killed themselves. There was like rioting that burned down like the rich people's houses. A lot of really horrible stuff. But anyway, we get to this one place where there's a lot of people with this 5-headed snake. And sort of like soldiers and some people that are medical people. They have red crosses on armbands, right? There's something about Zuru. Children of Zuru are the ones with the 5-headed snake branded on their faces. And we're kind of unclear, like, are these the people that cause all this, or are these people fighting against those people? It's hard to understand, but that's kind of the point of this. But eventually they approach her to sort of take care of her, and they take away the thing that she was holding, and she screams and fights them and sobs. She is extremely upset that this was taken from her. Her world had been taken, but the weight remained hers to carry. We sort of get the implication, though it's never said, that the thing that she was carrying was probably like her sister's body or her daughter's body or something like that, a child's body. And this soldier took it away from her, but they were already gone. The world had already been taken away from her. And I think it's really well executed that this extremely dark world is that our character has to walk through and just barely survive in after having lost everything.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this story was very effective. I know that Sarah Penguin said that this is one of the darkest stories that they have ever written. And I think going to that place, Sarah Penguin, and really dwelling in that darkness worked very well for this story. I mean, right out of the gate, I knew that this world is not going to have a happy ending, that it's towards the end, that the world that we know is gone, and all that remains is this sort of Badlands. And I really do love this sort of journey that this main character is taking, and how much time is really given to illustrate this spectacle, and just how palpable all of the imagery really is. And it really does color this story while also slowing the pacing to the point where it's slow and somber, which I really did love from this story. And yeah, I mean, overall, this story is effective, and it took me on this path that I just found myself really loving by the end, because of how dire it is, because of how much hopelessness has sort of wrapped this world, because of the darkness. And I really did love it for that reason. So great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right, those were all of our stories for this week. We wish we can talk about all of them, but hey, we can't. So, we do want to say a good old do the right thing thank you to everyone who did submit their story this week. So, thank you very much to Haunt of the Heron.
Thank you to Matt Said Words, who's a first-time writer.
Yes, first time. Thank you so much for writing in. And thank you to No Goodbye.
Thank you to Bloodthirsty Panda.
And thank you, Sarah Penguin. Thank you so much for submitting your story for this week. And we also want to say thank you to all those who left 2 or more comments. Leaving comments not only helps you understand more about your own writing, but you are providing someone else with crucial feedback, which is essential for making us all better writers. So thank you very much to Haunt of the Heron and Matt Said Words. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Yeah, y'all are fantastic. And I saw some other single comments everywhere. Don't forget that your chance of getting selected every week goes up when you leave a second comment. Also, it's just good overall for yourself and for other people. So yeah, consider writing a review of someone else's stuff or writing some more stuff on your own or anything else.
Please do. If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to Reddit/r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 of 4 words from that week.
That's right. If you don't have a Reddit account or you just want to let us know what's going on in your writing life or whatever else, or if you've written a story and sent it somewhere or something like that, let us know and maybe just let us know what you did so we can celebrate that. You could send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com, or you could DM us on Twitter or something like that, which is at rightthingcast.
Mm-hmm. If you want to support us and everything else happening in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. At the $5 level, you'll get access to our super fun Doof and Chills, and at the $10 level, you will get access to bonus content, including me and Matthias's side podcast, Doofovers, where we talk about anime and anything else that we want to doof over.
Yeah, we have to pick the one for this month. If the most recent Doof Intro was actually just last week. Mm-hmm. We had a really good time. It was most of the Doofcast, including Clarence, we sat down and we voice acted a spec script of the OC, which is it was a pretty humorous episode of the OC, and we all did great voices and everything. Matt had a very distinctive voice for his character, and yeah, it was a really, really good time. I enjoyed it a lot. So that's on our on the Patreon if you want to check that out if you haven't and you're a patron. And there's always there's another one next month, which we haven't quite decided yet, but we know that we're gonna have a really good time with it.
Nice. So, Matthias, what is happening in Doof Media right now?
Plenty. So funding our Patreon does a lot of things. It lets us do a lot of fun projects. One of which is actually the Doof the Right Thing contest, which is going on now. So we announced that last week. I know a little bit messily. Let me get more of the details. So the last one was about a year ago. We meant to do it 4 times a year. We kind of fell off about that, but here we have one again. So, as we said, last week began the Doof the Right Thing short fiction contest, which is funded by Doof patrons. So it's a really great way to just give yourself an excuse to edit something that you wrote. For it, the only rules is that you have to include at least 3 words from one of the prompts from a couple months ago, which is September 6th. That's the first day for the Do the Right Thing words through December 6th. So any words from then to then, so you don't have to have originally written a response to it. You can write one now, or you can just write one for any of the prompts between now and the due date. So you can edit it as much as you want. It just has to be below 2,000 words in length because it's voted on by Doof patrons. So we just want to make sure that people actually, get can read it and have don't get too bogged down with having to read a billion words and things, that kind of thing. The final due date is December 14th. You just have to send it to doofmedia@gmail.com, including Do the Right Thing contest number 2 in the subject header. Ideally, DTWT contest number 2. That way we can search it and find them all in the same search. And only one story per writer. However, you're free to edit as many more as you would like. So after those are sent in, the patrons will vote on them, and the top 3 will get cash prizes, as well as some honorable mentions getting honored as well.
Nice.
The first prize gets $100, the second one gets $75, and the third receives $25. So the stakes are not that low. So yeah, consider sending a story in for the contest. Of course, there's plenty of other things going on in Doof Media. You can go and check out the most recent things at doofmedia.com. There's a calendar on there, actually, so you can see all the episodes coming up.
Is it time to announce next week's words, Matthias?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Can I?
Keeping in mind that we are going to be talking about reveals. And the story that we're going to be reading next week.
So the story we are going to be reading next week is The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, so we're coming back with Poe with another short story. This one I think is a little bit more emblematic of what he can actually do.
Yes.
A lot of people have read the story.
I don't know. I personally think that last story was some of his best work. Maybe even his magnum opus. So I don't know if this story is really going to measure up, but we'll have to see.
Okay, sure. What are the words next for next week?
So the words for next week are pawn, secular, bronze, and trustee. Really, really great words for this week. It's not really bringing any story to mind, but I can definitely see our audience making good use of this week's words.
Yeah, so a pawn, there's 2 primary meanings. One is a pawn as in like a chessboard, right? The most sacrificial piece in the game, the easiest to sacrifice. So it can also be used as a metaphor. Someone else can be a pawn, just a tool in someone else's game. Or to pawn something, which is to at a pawn shop, which is basically what you sell something, but only like temporarily.
Yeah,
I don't fully understand.
It's a partial sell where if you don't go back and repay the money, they will keep it forever. Like a loan shark,
and then sell it for outrageous prices. Right. Or you could even write about Pawn Stars, a hit reality TV show.
That's still going on.
The next word, secular, which is something for it to be not religious. Bronze, as in the color or the metal. And trustee, which is a someone who trusts someone else. I think basically.
Yes.
So a trustee of an organization basically has invested into the corporation and receives benefits because of it.
Nice. So, Matthias, what story are you gonna fathom for next week?
Keeping in mind that we're working on reveals, although I'm probably not going to do one right now. So I'm going to be talking about the story of an ancient Greek hero with his trustee bronze sword. It's not that kind of trust. It's trustee with 2 E's, not trust E.
Trustee.
But we're gonna do it anyway. Trustee bronze sword. As he goes around adventuring, and see, he's actually a secular hero, so he doesn't actually belong to any particular god or goddess. And he's a true neutral Greek hero, which means no one favors him and everyone curses him, which is not super great. And so he's going around, and he's a proponent of secularism, so he's trying to kill as many gods as possible. Except it's actually turns out it's all been a pawn in Hades' game, because when the gods die, they go to the underworld and they just become one of his dudes anyway. And so he's just going more and more powerful. However, it all backfires when our secular hero goes down and kills him too. And now from now on, when people die, instead of going to the underworld, they just cease to exist. And that, yeah, it kind of sucked, honestly, that he did that. It's a real big bummer. So this is too bad, I guess.
It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So my story for next week takes place in the far future, in the year 2021, in the galaxy far, far away, on the bronze-covered planet of Simotel Onyx Veka 5-9, where there is a war raging like no one has ever seen. It is almost like the planet itself is a giant chessboard, where pawns die quickly, knights see no action, and the king sits up in his wary tower with his trustees, also known as spies, for the rival nation. And this king wants nothing, needs nothing. In fact, his entire rule, all of the money and the beautiful foods and fruits that they bring back from the battlefield, is all a precipitant of the spoils of war. Because you see, the king is rivals to the church state, the state nation of God Jesus, Amlahu, who has been ruling this entire city, this entire world, for many, many years. But now the king has come up with the perfect plan. The plan to end this war. And it's not through battle. It's through propaganda. Secular propaganda. It started on the TV, then the books, then the news anchors, and the celebrities. No one really believed anymore. And with less people to believe, the rival nation had less bearings on the world. So, of course, this king wins. But he doesn't win by battles or knives or fighting or strife. He wins by having a solid control over the people he dictates.
I like how this is still the planet of bronze, which now has secular propaganda on TV with celebrities and such.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen. Even though it is made of bronze, that doesn't mean that people can't have a good time. You know, I mean, I think as long as there is civilization, there will be TV.
That's right. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Well, I hope that the people of that planet do the right thing and turn their TVs off.
That would be the right thing to do. Or you could tune in to Channel 3 and watch the local news.